Welcome to the official AFK Gone Cheap build guide. This build can AFK up to tier 16 bosses, it has fast clear speed, as well as insane amounts of DPS, and can kill tier 15 bosses in 2 seconds. And it's cheap. The only downside to this build is the lag. My name is Chilifreak.
And I'm Crispy.
We're going to talk in depth how this build functions and how to put it together. For a faster paced montage, please watch this video first. Let's talk about the build concept. If we want to go AFK, there are 2 things we need to accomplish. We need to tank small as well as big hits. When it comes to the small hits, we have a unique sword called Razor of the Seventh Sun, which gives us 1% of our max life every time we ignite an enemy. And since there are no limits to how many times an enemy can be ignited, by maximizing our number of hits per second and chances to ignite, we gain more life. But we can only ignite with fire damage. So how do we convert to fire damage? Well, with Avatar of Fire node, we can convert 50% of all other damage types to fire damage. Also, with lots and lots of low-level cast when damage taken setups linked to spells that hit as much as possible, we'll get an insane amount of ignites, which equals more life gained. But how do we automatically do this? Well, since all our gem setups are activated when we take damage, we need something that causes damage, even when the enemies don't hit us. That's where Eye of Innocence comes in. This unique amulet causes us to take 100 fire damage every time we ignite an enemy. Our fire rest reduces this to 25 damage, so it's not very high, and this low amount of damage is easily out-healed using our Razor of the Seventh Sun.
That covers the small hits. Now let's talk about the big hits. The Marauder Ascendancy class Berserker has the beautiful node called Cloaked in Savagery, which makes us leech 100% of our damage as life when we've taken a savage hit in the last 4 seconds. A savage hit is a hit that takes 15% of our max life or more. Now you might think, if our cast when damage taken setups are low leveled, how do we deal enough damage for our leech? Well, have no fear. The remedy is a level 20 fire burst on hits, crafted on our scepter. For every 10 times our cast when damage taken spells hit an enemy, fire burst activates, dealing a ton of damage, instantaneously leeching us up to full life. This can be done thanks to Val's Pact, which makes the leech apply instantly.
Let's move on to gear, starting with the helmet. By using an Essence of Hysteria on any helmet, you always gain 50% chance to ignite on all socketed gems. We abuse this fact to gain more ignites, thus more life gained from Razor of the Seventh Sun. Other mods to look for are life and resistances, mods that can easily be crafted through masters. So the gems in this item slot are Cast When Damage Taken, Blade Vortex, Firestorm, and Shock Nova.
These are the low-level cast when damage taken spells that are going to cause the most amount of ignites compared to our other gem setups. They are the motor of our build, as they all hit a lot.
When it comes to the amulet, use Eye of Innocence. Enough said. Razor of the Seventh Sun is used in our main hand. Insert Whirling Blades, faster attacks, and Fortify for utility. In our offhand, we'll use a Scepter, crafted with Essence of Hysteria for 10% chance to activate level 20 Fire Burst on hit. Other mods to look for are increased spell damage and fire damage. Insert Increased AoE, Control Destruction, and Fire Penetration. These gems will support the Fire Burst when put into the Scepter. Let's talk about the chest. Any 5 to 6 link chestplate will do. I use Tabula Rasa because it's really cheap. The best thing to have is Belly of the Beast if we were playing actively. Comms art works too if you just want AFK. With Tabla, you'll have around 6.3k life, with Belly of the Beast around 7k, and with Kamzart around 8k.
Now for the rings, we'll use 2 Mocos Empresa. These rings are fantastic because they enable us to ignite ourselves, which we take almost no damage from, but we gain insane boosts to attack and cast speed from the rings themselves, paired with Eye of Innocence, 2% extra fire leech, and up to 70% increased fire damage while ignited. An expensive alternative is Taming, which costs around 10 Exalted Orbs, combined with Ember Wake, which is cheap. Overall, slower clear speed. However, on bosses, which you ignite a lot as you fight them for a longer time, Taming gives us an insane damage multiplier. For every ignite, we get 10% increased damage on the enemy. With a max of 300 ignites, it can get to a 3000% damage increase, although this level is rarely reached.
When it comes to the boots, we want as much life and resistance as is attainable. This also applies to our belt and gloves. Possibly, you will have to compensate for missing stats, such as low dexterity. Movement speed is not so important, since Whirling Blades takes us all the way. When it comes to gem setups, you will use a low-level cast when damage taken setup with Glacial Cascade, Flammability, and Bladefall. The belt. As with boots, go for life and res. When it comes to gloves, as much life and res as possible, and possibly missing stats. Our gem setup is going to consist of 2 alternatives. The first alternative, a big hit protector, consisting of high-level cast when damage taken, connected to Bladefall, Ethereal Knives, Arctic Armor, which makes our Cloaked in Savagery less dependent on the fire bursts. Our second alternative, for maximum clear speed, you can just switch in Increased Duration, Val Haste, Blood Rage, Arctic Armor. You can switch between these as much as you want, depending on if you want to clear or just go AFK, as the socket colors are the same. Let's briefly talk about Flasks, because you might wonder how we can claim to be cheap when we use a legacy Vessel of Vengter. Simple. It's kind of useless, for this build at least. You can replace it with literally anything. The same can be said about all our flasks, just try to have bleed immunity on one of them.
Let's move on to the skill tree. For this build, we'll use the Marauder Ascendancy Berserker. Pain Reaver gives us 1% mana leech. We also gain a lot of damage due to Aspect of Carnage. As we've already mentioned, Cloaked in Savagery is the key to surviving big hits. In order to fully utilize Cloaked in Savagery, you need to spec into Val's Pact for instant leech. Also, we'll take Avatar of Fire to convert our damage into fire damage. For more damage in the tree, you can invest in Elemental Overload. For the rest of our damage nodes, they are only grabbed because they are on the way to something else, or because we want the chance to ignite some of the nodes give. Otherwise, we'll be looking for as much life as possible, and jewel slots, which give even more life. They can also give us up to 3% chance to ignite each, and attack speed for Whirling Blades, or other stats and resistances we're missing. When it comes to the Bandits, we'll save Oki Normal for 40 life, and kill all in Cruel and Merciless for passive points. So that's about all for today.
Shouldn't we, tell them about the thing that allows us to melt tier 15 bosses in under 2 seconds?
And now, if you think we're done, you're all wrong. By using Valmolten Shell, we can kill bosses in an instance. Upon activation, it will trigger an explosive blast every time you take physical damage. Now you might think that Eye of Innocence only make you take fire damage. Thankfully, GGG thought about that and made a unique item just for us. Rat's Cage. Rat's Cage converts 10% of the fire damage you take to physical damage. Problem solved!
You can't just use this setup however you want though, so let me walk you through it. When clearing a map, take Valmolten Shell out of Rat's Cage and put it in any red socket in your gear, and charge Valmolten Shell with souls. When Valmolten Shell is fully charged, put it back in Red's cage. When encountering the boss, drop it. That was it. Now you're ready to go AFK and do other, more important stuff, you know? Like,
So, if you have any questions, you can comment below or visit the forum thread. Until next time, guys.
Crispy, let's go get some ice cream. Come on.
Yeah, more important stuff.